Once you've been approved for passport funding, there are a few forms you'll need to fill out before you begin submitting for reimbursement. These forms help to make sure that your passport agency knows who is managing your funding and that the right person gets reimbursed. These forms also help you keep track of your expenses and submit your claim for reimbursement. We have created several videos to walk you through completion of these passport forms, which you can find on the Passport website, passportfunding.ca. The Passport Service Agreement is a legal contract between you, your passport agency, and Passport One. You will receive the Passport Service Agreement once you have been approved for funding. If you are new to passport funding, you will only need to complete this form once, unless the person who is responsible for managing your funding changes. The Passport Service Agreement outlines what you, your passport agency, and Passport One is responsible for, and the amount of funding you've been approved for. Your responsibilities are to manage your passport funding according to the passport funding guidelines, provide your passport agency with required information and documents regarding the use of your passport funding, communicate with your passport agency when needed and respond to requests for information, advise your passport agency of any barriers you experience in using your funding, inform your passport agency of any changes to your address, contact information, the services you receive, and other relevant information that might impact your passport funding. Your passport agency is responsible to communicate with you and answer any questions you might have regarding passport funding, and to provide you with information, education, and help you budget if you would like. Passport One is responsible to review submitted claims and pay eligible services or items based on the Passport Program guidelines. After reading the Passport Service Agreement, you or the person you are asking to be responsible for managing your funding, like a trusted family member or substitute decision maker, will fill out the form. In some cases, the Office of the Public Guardian and Trustee will be the person responsible for managing funding. The person managing funding is the person who can sign on behalf of the passport recipient. The person responsible for managing funding can submit invoices themselves, but has other options to choose from if they do not want to submit or keep track of monthly expenses. We'll discuss these options a little later on the form. You can ask up to 2 people to help manage your funding. The first step in completing the Passport Service Agreement is for the person managing funds to sign the Signature of Person Managing Funds section and add the date on page number 9. Appendix A, Client Funds, on page 10 will let you know who your passport agency is, the date you were approved for passport funding, and the amount of funding you have available per full fiscal year. It's important to note that the fiscal year is from April 1st to March 31st. For example, the fiscal year begins April 1st, 2023 and ends March 31st, 2024. Any unused portion of your funding does not carry over from one fiscal year to the next. Appendix B, Person Managing Funds page, is where you will let your passport agency know who is going to be the person managing funds. Question 1 asks if the client will be their own person managing funds or if a substitute decision maker or trusted person will help you manage your passport funding. Simply circle yes if you are going to manage your own funding, or no if you are asking someone else to help you manage your funding. If you have asked someone to help you manage your funding, they will need to fill out question number 2 by filling in their name, address, telephone number, email address, and relationship to the client. Now that you know who will be the person managing funding, the next step will be to choose a funding option. You can ask an agency to manage the funds. By selecting this option, you are letting your passport agency know that you are going to ask an agency to manage some or all of your funding, and that the agency will submit claims for you. You can ask a broker to manage the funds. By selecting this option, you are letting your passport agency know that you have hired someone to help you submit claims to Passport One and self-administer the funds. By selecting this option, you are letting your passport agency know that you or a trusted family member or friend will submit claims to Passport One. The last section to complete on this form is the Successor Contact section. This section allows your passport agency to contact this person if the person who is currently managing your funding cannot do it anymore. This makes sure that you continue to have access to your funding without interruption. Let's review what you will need to do to complete the Passport Service Agreement. Sign and date page 9, review funding information on page 10, choose who will manage your funding and add their information on page 11, select a funding option, and choose a successor contact on page 12.